how's it going? I want to talk to you guys a little bit about doing what's called a rake on a Dobro. And a rake is this sound right here where you strum across all the strings, then you end up with just one note ringing out. Everybody probably does these a little bit differently, but I'm just going to show you how I do it. Now, a couple things about a rake. Most common place to rake is on the high string. So I'm going to focus on that in this video, and then I'll do another one talking about how to get that accomplished on the second string or the third string. But for now, let's look at the high string. Important to note that this is at least almost always on a barred fretted note. You're not really going to hear people do rakes on an open string very often. Very difficult to get a clean rake that way because I'm using some of my left hand technique here. So most of the time we're talking about a barred note on a high string here, and what you have to do is mute out all of the strings except the one you want to hear, so that when you strum, you don't get any extra notes. You just want to get the one note to ring out. Now, here's how I accomplish that. First of all, my right palm is going to cover the kind of the low strings. So I'm going to try to show you that. Okay, so my palm is down here on really kind of resting on the low 3 strings. You know, it might graze the next string or two, but for the most part, just got it kind of wedged on the low strings here. So that, and then when I strum, I'm just going to pivot my hand, but I'm going to keep my palm down on the strings. So that's my motion with the strum. That way, all of these low strings, they're not going to ring out at all. Okay, so we're doing a nice light strum with my palm down on the strings. It's important to keep it light. If you do your strum too heavy, you get this kind of chunky, and you just want a nice smooth light thing. And this note is going to pop out pretty loud regardless, so you don't need to overplay it. Just a nice light strum. Now my palm takes care of the low strings, but it might not it's not accurate enough to get all like 5 strings that I need to mute. So do some stuff with the left hand here to mute basically strings 2 and 3. Those are the ones I'm going to be most concerned with. I can cover the low 3 with my palm. How I do it might not be how everybody does it, but I use my left thumb, and I'll show you that. So when I'm raking for the high string, my left thumb is going to be here on the second and third strings, so that my bar can be flat, and I've got these two well muted with my left thumb. So the low strings are getting covered by the right palm, and then the strings 2 and 3 are covered by the left thumb. Go back to the high string there. So that's how I do it. Now, another thing that people will do, I think that left thumb technique is not necessarily super common. So some people would do this with an angled bar, and then you've got the fingers behind the bar here, being very careful to make sure you've got strings 2 and 3 muted. Okay, so with that technique, it would sound more like this. This works too. So this is another way to do it, and probably more common. It's not how I usually do it, but certainly works if you're not comfortable trying to use your left thumb. one way. Here's another way. Either way, we're getting a nice light strum, and then the high string is ringing out. So, sum it all up. My right palm is going to be down on the low strings. My left thumb is going to be on strings 2 and 3, or I'm going to have an angled bar and have my left pinky and ring fingers muting out strings 2 and 3. Important thing is to get everything muted. And then to keep your palm on the strings, pivot and get a nice light strum. And you've got a good sounding rake. And this is going to help you sound very professional. You know, all the real pro players kind of do this from time to time. And as you learn how to do it, it starts to be a natural part of how you play, to get a little accent on a note. So hopefully this helps you out, and I'm going to do one more video on how I can get a rake on the 2nd or 3rd string. Gets a little more complex when you do that, but also very useful. So we'll check that out in the next video.